Alright, welcome back, Ghetto Rasta family. It's your boy Ghetto Rasta Locks. This is Monopoly Part 2. If you don't know, this is a man's mental health page, but this is not a man's mental health page where we bashing. So we support everything. Sometimes issues will be discussed just because sometimes issues need to be addressed. But this is focused on how do we get better, not more so how do we find blame or where do we put blame and stuff like that. We build upon and we have those discussions in between time. Anyway, this is Monopoly 2. I look down and because I take notes, so you will see me looking down. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share, put other people on to this, and we're going to keep riding. Again, Monopoly 2. I'm about to start looking down. Monopoly Part 2. Utilities, railroads, transportation, the hidden costs on man's mental health. Welcome back, Rasta family. If you ain't seen Part 1 yet, go check that out. In Part 1, we broke down jail, rent, food, men's mental health, the way that the board ties into our lives. Now, today is Part 2. Today we will be getting into utilities, railroads, and transportation. 3 spots on the board that seem simple, yet in real life, they carry hidden costs that weighs heavy on man's mental health, families, and our communities. And this is a continuous series. Just like in Part 1, you got the foundation. Now we'll build upon it. We still got Part 3 coming, and that is going to tie the rest of the board together. So let's break it down. Segment 1, utilities, the reoccurring bill that breaks you. On the Monopoly board, utilities look simple. You land on it, you pay. Sometimes it's double, sometimes it's triple. You pay sometimes, I'm sorry, I got lost. Sometimes it's double, sometimes it's triple, depending on the dice. In real life, utilities are a reoccurring survival bill. Water, lights, heat. You miss a payment, debt stacks. Fees, reconnection charges, penalties. Suddenly, what was once $100 turns to $300. And when you're struggling to reach for that, you reach for that get out of jail free card, credit cards. But this just creates another chain you don't end up paying off of debt. You just end up paying on the interest in most cases. That's a hole that gets deeper and deeper. The cost of living keeps climbing. Bills keep jumping 30 to 50%, while wages move up slightly, not even 1%. They will tell you this to budget better, but you only can budget and cut so much when you have to provide milk, bread, gas keeps rising, and etc. So for your simple bills, they tell you to be like, hey, the interest of every gas is going up. The interest of food we now know is going up due to whatever, you know what I'm saying, that is. You know, Babylon. But then our wages don't go up. And they like, well, you budget better and you do this, and this is the way you get to survive, but your pay really doesn't equate for that. So you're struggling to make ends meet while everything is jumping twice over, 3 times over. How much was milk, you know what I'm saying, a couple years ago? How much was bread a couple years ago? You see what I'm saying? And like it just keeps going up, and then you watching everything else as far as your pay barely making a change. You see what I'm saying? For man trying to lead a family, it is crushing. Every disconnection notice feels like a failure. Every high bill feels like you're not enough. And this eats at your mental health. This conflicts with your peace. And when your surviving pressure turns up, some of our brothers turn into crime and desperation to feed their families. But in reality, this comes at a high cost. So when pressure is when pressure bursts pipes, and you got a family looking for you to be like, hey, daddy, we looking for something to eat. Why is these lights about to go off? You know what I'm saying? The first person that they kind of typically want to look at is a male figure, or they're expecting a male figure to do so. We're not saying that, no, we're not disrespecting mothers. We're not doing that. This is not that. Just please keep up with me. We're talking about in a family that's trying. You know what I'm saying? Not perfect, but it's a family that's trying. So in that expectation, a man is expected to be more so a lead front, and is expected to be like, all right, we got to help make sure these ends meet. The woman is doing that too. We're not taking away from the woman. But in that sense, when you're looking for something to go wrong, like almost if somebody's trying to come in the home, they looking at the man like, so you going to let this disconnect? What you going to do about this? How you going to make sure that everybody's fed? Look at young boys when things happen in the family where the fathers are not around. All these things, typically the boy gets looked to, and then a lot of young kids turn to the wrong thing to help call themselves feeding this, and it gets into, you know what I'm saying, this bad gymnastics thing that gets them deeper and deeper. Sorry about that. Segment 2, railroads. Railroads, mental health. You ever notice how railroads and monopoly bring money every time somebody lands on them? 4 spaces on the board, steady income if you own them. Now think about it in real life. Trains moving resources every day. Steel, food, cars, fuel, and many more things to build someone else's wealth. But they run through hoods, 3 a.m. You hear horns, feeling the ground shake when they pass by, but none of the rewards on the train typically come to us. That does something to your head, your spirit, your heart. You hear opportunity rolling past, loud enough for it to rattle your windows, yet it doesn't stop there. You start to think and feel maybe life itself just skips you by, and on your block it skips your block. Where you come from. That kind of weight builds up stress, depression, anxiety, because you know you're next to flowing income, flowing greatness, wealth, but you can't touch it. You can't feel it. And that wealth weighs on you, but you're locked out of it. That's why Monopoly hits harder than a game. It is a mirror. Ownership is mental health, control, peace of mind, a start to it anyway. Watching wealth is just watching wealth pass you by while you're stuck. That messes with any man's spirit, anywhere, anyone. Knowing this, the other side of this is us building wellness, wealth. Let's own the railroads. Let's tax their land, their resources that they want moved. And we put back into our businesses, our communities, and our homes, and each other. What is that, my Rasta family? That is putting back into the village that we're forever speaking of. And the village that we're forever talking about. Brothers, this is how we protect the family, the village, while playing their game, becoming the masters to their blueprint. Which Nipsey always tells us, he'll steal game, he'll steal advice. He had an interview where he talked about you ain't got to give it to him, he'll steal it. He peeped game from the greats, he'll steal advice. And what he means by this is, if it can apply, he's going to take it. And then you have to pay me for my resources. And this is what we have to understand. When we see we can make it and do what someone else is doing better, we take that and we apply it in the right way. And then you got to pay us. And we can build and become a little more leveled out and stop struggling. If you want to come through here, pay us in the right way. So, segment 3. Transportation. In Monopoly, everybody picks a piece. But one of the biggest pieces people pick is the car. Most chase after the car. Why? Because it represents movement. It's your transportation on the board. Now in the game, it does not break down. It does not run out of gas. It just keeps on rolling. Yet in real life, the transportation gets tested. Cars wear down, buses run late, tires pop, brakes fail. Every time that you they drop a new model of a car every year. So we know the old models are not built to last. They're designed to break and for us to spend money. And what this does is has a wear on your mental health. And what I mean by that is with these cars not being built to last and they built to break down, is we know we got enough intelligence in the world to have a car be built where it doesn't have all these problems. And you know what I'm saying, these different parts don't break and this and that, and people can last for a long time on the road, and we ain't gonna have all these problems. But it's all a game, it's an illusion to be like, hey, let's just let this last what we say is fair, and then you gotta pay to get all these different things fixed, and it can cost all this different money. Why they keep rolling out this new one and they doing the same thing with the new model. That's why they defective, they have recalls. Because it's not built for us to keep, it's built for us to keep making a rental payment basically just on it. If we own our cars, you got to pay to keep them updated. If you know what I'm saying, insurance, a reoccurring bill for you to say you're insured for if you get in a wreck. All these, or I'm not saying that it's not all bad, but what I'm saying is it's different illusions that they do to be like, hey, dude, let's find another way to tax them to get more money out of them. You know what I'm saying, in one way or another. And you know what I'm saying, again, with the game board of Monopoly, you moving around, and while you moving around in these different type of transportations, things happen, you know what I mean, and these pieces can be broken down in different ways where it'll apply to life. So I'm going to start this a sentence back. And what this does is it messes with your mental health. You're stressed of making it from home to work, from school pickups to practice. A breakdown at the wrong time could cost you your job. Miss a bus in the code, that survival mode kicks in before you clock in. The weight of that getting there breaks your spirit. If you don't recognize the game being played on you. Here's where it gets deeper. Sometimes in the hood, the Monopoly piece goes missing. Somebody loses it. It gets too worn down. So what do we do with that piece? We grab something else. Sometimes a coin, a button. Some of y'all do something crazy. I've seen stuff like where I've seen people get like bobbleheads or a little toy to represent one of the pieces while you rolling the dice. You know, we got to make it work when we try to play a game. You know how that go. But that piece is just a representation of the transportation on the board. It's whatever you can do from A to B. So, in reality, that's your car, your bike, your bus. Even your own 2 feet. And anything in between. It's Monopoly. But if you're getting from A to B, you're still in the game. That's the hustle of transportation. The piece that don't define you, it just carries you. But if we don't own it, the blueprint, we're stuck in the cycle where every little ride is a trap. As that's why Nipsey Hussle blueprints and he'll still advice and game and apply so well. We have to have ownership. We have to say it out loud and grasp it. We go from watching the railroads to owning the railroads. We go from renting their transportation to owning their transportation. And this gives us a big leap to how we start flipping the board and everything goes. And their utilities is an open discussion. I think that's another video, so I'll talk about that within another video because that one is a little more in depth for me. But with that being said, next will be part 3. And in part 3, we'll be talking about property, housing, chess, and owning the board. I thank you for staying tuned with Ghetto Rasta Lux, Ghetto Rasta family. This one was a little bit shorter, a lot of bullet points, but before we close, I hope we understand. I'm just going to flip. I do a lot of writing, y'all. We do need to understand. And again, in part 1, we talked about jail, rent, food, men's mental health. This part 2 has covered utilities, which we've seen utilities is a reoccurring charge that they keep pitting on to us. And every single time we think we got a break, you have to pay it again. The railroad, the passing by resources that's blind to us because we just see it, but we don't see it stop. It's still carrying a whole bunch of stuff, so we don't pay it no mind. But it's vast resources, billions of dollars that passes by us, and we don't pay attention to it. But we got to catch the game and start owning it so we can put wealth back into ourselves. We deserve the same thing because we're working just as hard. Sometimes, if not even more. Blood, sweat, and tears to what we do, and we get the lesser ends of it. Transportation. Again, how we got from A to B, and different taxes on that reason too. And that applies to a man's mental health. All these things weigh on a man's health, on a man's mind. How do you carry yourself, your family, and loved ones when you have these many different obstacles in the way? So we have to start flipping the board of Monopoly and understand it. But we ain't going to be able to flip the board until we understand the game of the Monopoly. How real was this game in front of us? And some of us, we really never played and paid attention to it. So, I appreciate y'all. Again, wait for Monopoly Part 3. Can't wait to drop that until y'all tune in for that. Hopefully, Part 1 and 2 make enough sense for everybody. Please sub, comment, like, share, hit that notification bell, pass this on to somebody possibly that could use it. And drop down in the comments what you think, please. You know what I'm saying? Let's have discussions. So I urge y'all to drop something in the comments. Just give me, you know what I'm saying, ideas. It's always about love here. All right, now bless up. One love, blessings on your journey. It's one in the head and spirit, one in the heart and spirit. Bless up. Ghetto Rasta Lux. One love.